for January 13th, 2025. Would you please stand as you are able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would the please follow the roll of the members?
Certainly, Mayor. Yes, Councillor Snell,
Present.
Councillor Larson,
Present.
Councillor Weaver,
Here.
Councillor Hoppy,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Stites,
Here.
Councillor Ohm,
Here.
Councillor Dozeman,
Here.
and Councillor Hulteen.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Councilors, in your packet, you have study session notes from the December 2nd, 2024 study session meeting. You have City Council meeting minutes for the December 9, 2024 meeting and study session notes from the December 16th, 2024 meeting. Are there any corrections or modifications to be noted in the minutes? None seen. The minutes are approved with our thanks to the clerk. Are there any changes to be noted in the agenda for tonight? None noted, so we will proceed with the agenda as published. We have one proclamation, and I will ask Tracy Volkman to join me at the podium. How are you? Thank you for joining us tonight. I am pleased to make a proclamation on National Radon Action Month, January 2025. Whereas radon is a naturally occurring, invisible, odorless, radioactive gas that threatens the health of our citizens and their families. And whereas radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer and leading cause among non-smokers in the United States. And whereas the Colorado Rocky Mountain region has been ranked Zone 1, an area with the highest radon potential possible by the Environmental Protection Agency. And whereas recent residential radon testing has shown that more than half of Jefferson County homes tested as being at or above the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency radon action level of 4.0 PCI per liter, picocuries per liter of air, and whereas Jefferson County Public Health, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, and the United States Environmental Protection Agency, and the American Lung Association are all supporting efforts to encourage Americans to test their homes for radon, have elevated levels of radon reduced, and have new homes built with radon-resistant features. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Bud Starker, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, and the Wheat Ridge City Council, do hereby proclaim January 2025 to be National Radon Action Month in the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, and encourage all residents to contact the Jefferson County Public Health Department for a radon test kit and instructions on how to test your home for radon. Dated this 13th day of January, 2025. Thank you for being here. Would you like to say a few words? All right.
Yes, I'm Tracy Volkman with Jefferson County Public Health. I've been working on the radon program for the past 6 years, and the City of Wheat Ridge has been one of our partners that always supports us. In January, again, we stress test your house. You won't know unless you test it, and it's so important and something that can be remediated and made all homes safe. So thank you so much for the City of Wheat Ridge and to all of City Council. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your work on this.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Okay, wait a minute. Come on back. We have a photo op. The mandatory photo op. So. Okay, thank you so much. We are now at our Public's Right to Speak portion of our program. This is an opportunity for members of the public to come and talk to their city council on any item that is not on the agenda. You have 3 minutes to speak. We have some timing lights that are up here, and when the lights start flashing green, I think they'll gives you about a 30-second notice. They'll turn to yellow when you got about 15. When the light turns red, please conclude your remarks. Our first speaker is Lee Cantu and Tyler Tate on deck. And if you would please, when you get to the podium, come to the podium and give us your first name and your last name. Please spell your last name for the record. And then after you start, we'll start timing. Is Lee Cantu here?
I've been here for a long time.
Okay, well, thank you for coming tonight. If you would please give us your first name and your last name, and tell us
Lee.
if you live or work in Wheat Ridge.
Okay, Lee H. Cantu. I live here in Whitridge,
Very good, sir. Please continue.
but I came, my issue is about the potholes around the Denver area. There's a lot of them. So I came here to talk about it because I think it's important that we get rid of all these potholes. And I know the maintenance people around the city are doing what they can. But I believe that, they need help in the people checking around, where it's really bad, dangerous. So that's what I'm here for. I'm from the state of Colorado. I come from a political family in Taos, New Mexico. So, I'm not really a stranger here. But I thought I'd come over here and state that fact over here that's happening in the Denver area. So I came here to acknowledge that.
Well, thank you very much for coming this evening.
Sure. And if I can help anybody here, with issues, I will.
Okay. Well, thank you very
I've
much.
been here a long time in Denver, 48 years.
Okay, well, you're always welcome to come and address the council.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Have a good evening. We have Taylor Tate, the next speaker, and Jerry Tullio on deck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Council, for allowing me here today. Good evening, everyone. My name is Taylor Tate, T-A-I-T. I work for Congresswoman Brittany Pedersen, and today I just wanted to talk about some mobile office hours that we're going to be holding. We're holding mobile office hours in the Columbine Library in South Jeffco on this Wednesday from 3 to 5. So if anyone needs help with passports, the IRS, veterans benefits, Medicare, Social Security, or any federal agency, me and my team will be happy to help with those situations. We're also having a mobile office hours in Arvada at the Arvada Library on February 13th, also from 3 to 5 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, and please give our best regards to the Congresswoman.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is Mr. Jerry DiTullio.
Thank you. Jerry DiTullio, D-I-T-U-L-L-I-O. I'm here as Jefferson County Treasurer and a citizen of Wheat Ridge. Excuse me. I just wanted to personally thank the City of Wheat Ridge staff for today. They cleaned up a huge mess on 33rd and Lamar. Over the night, someone had dumped a large amount of trash and debris on 33rd and Lamar. It sounds like a minor issue, but it was like a dump truck worth of junk out there. And so I wanted to thank the Wheat Ridge Parks and Rec and the community services for their quick cleanup. It looks great. I just can't imagine someone doing that in the neighborhood, but it was literally dumpsters of stuff that they had to haul away. What they actually did is they tied a metal cable around their trash on the truck, tied it to a tree, and then drove off, and it just pulled it off the truck as they left. And a lot of the neighbors were upset. And so thanks to the City of Wheat Ridge for the cleanup. It was great, especially Parks and Rec and community services. Also, so that's as a citizen. So as your county treasurer, the 2024 taxes, property taxes payable in 2025, those are going to be mailed by the end of this month, and the tax bill should be fairly consistent with last year. I think it'll be comparable. Not much is going up on your property taxes for 2025, payable in 2024. We've had a busy year because of some of the changes with the legislature, but a lot of those changes will actually take effect in 2025 for 2026 payable. So we're pretty clear right now. This year is an assessment year, so watch your assessment cards come in the mail, and if you feel they over-assessed your property, please feel free to appeal to the assessor's office. You can do that all next year, or this year, actually, when you get it in May. And the last thing is, in Jefferson County, we had the ballot question 1A, which passed, which de-Bruced, and Jeffco. So will be the last Jeffco Tabor refund check you'll see this year. After 4 years, we had everything logistically figured out. So we had no complaints, little complaints. Everything was smooth, and now we're not going to be doing it anymore. So the only way the voters approved that by 58% of the vote. So that money will be retained based on the ballot question for infrastructure and public safety in Jefferson County and working with the cities and municipalities within the county. So just wanted to bring up those three things. Thanks again for the staff for their quick response on cleaning up a big mess in the city. Do you have any questions about the taxes or anything before I bail? I got yellow. Thank you.
I think we're good. Thank you very much, Mr. DiTullio. Okay, and I'll ask the city clerk, do we have anyone online that's is signed up to speak?
Not for regular public comment, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, that concludes our public's right to speak. We're going to go now to our first item on the agenda. That is our consent agenda. Councilor Hoppe, would you please introduce the consent agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce consent agenda item 1A, motion encumbering funds in the amount of $167,700 for utilization of the WEX fuel card system in 2025. 1B, motion encumbering funds in the amount of $124,900 for bulk fuel purchase and delivery from Synergy Petroleum in 2025. 1C, motion to approve the purchase of salt materials for snow and ice control on city streets from Central Salt in the total amount not to exceed $135,000. 1D, motion to approve a custodial service contract and approve subsequent payments in the amount not to exceed $419,350. Excuse me, to S&B Confluence, doing business as Jenny King of Colorado, and approve a contingency in the amount of $12,000 as requested for unforeseen custodial expenses. 1E, resolution number 01-2025, a resolution amending the right-of-way maintenance services agreement with the TerraCare Associates LLC to accept 3% increase in compensation for 2025. 1F, resolution number 02-2025, a resolution approving the second amendment to an intergovernmental agreement establishing the Jefferson County Regional Crime Laboratory. 1G, motion to approve payment to Colorado Intergovernmental Risk Sharing Agency, CIRSA, for the 2025 property and casualty premium in the amount of $581,329. And finally, 1H, motion to approve monthly payments to the Colorado Employer Benefit Trust, CEBT, for 2025 medical, dental, employee assistance program, and life insurance membership billing in the amount not to exceed $2,517,979.
Thank you very much. Well done, Councilor Hoppe. I'll give you one second to take an air breath. And then would you please give me a motion to approve agenda item 1A through 1H?
I move to approve the consent agenda item 1A through 1H.
We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please poll the council?
Mayor, the motion carries.
Thank you. We will move now to agenda item number 2. Mayor Pro Tem Stites, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance, bill number 26-2024, an ordinance approving an amendment to the existing planned mixed-use development, PMUD zoning at Clear Creek Crossing. At issue, the applicant is requesting to modify the underlying zoning for certain areas of Clear Creek Crossing to refine allowed uses, setbacks, street, plaza, and multimodal requirements. The intent of these changes is to relocate the main restaurant and entertainment district to the western edge of the site and to create a premier pedestrian corridor to connect users from West 40th Avenue.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on second reading. It is a public hearing. It is quasi judicial. I'm going to open the public hearing. And Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
We do. Stephanie Stevens, a senior planner, is here this evening.
Okay, Ms. Stevens.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Stephanie Stevens, for the record, City Planner in the City of Wheat Ridge Community Development Department, presenting case number WZ 2401. And give me just a moment, I forgot my clicker. All right, so this is a request for approval of an amendment to the underlying zoning for certain areas of Clear Creek Crossing to refine allowed uses, setbacks, street, plaza, and multimodal requirements. The intent of these changes is to relocate the main restaurant and entertainment district to the western edge of the development and to create a premier pedestrian corridor to connect users from West 40th Avenue. I would like to enter into the public record the contents of the case file, the zoning ordinance, the comprehensive plan, and this digital presentation. This property is within the City of Wheat Ridge. All appropriate notification and posting requirements have been met, and therefore City Council has jurisdiction to hear this case. So Clear Creek Crossing is located west of Interstate 70 and south of Highway 58. Properties surrounding Clear Creek Crossing have a variety of land uses and zoning designations. To the north is Clear Creek Trail. To the northwest are Coors Water Storage Facilities. The Applewood Golf Course and a large lot single unit neighborhood are located to the west and southwest in unincorporated Jefferson County. Directly to the south of subject property, land uses are generally highway-oriented and include a gas station, hotel, and restaurants near the 32nd Avenue area. Interstate 70 abuts the property to the east, and across I-70 is the Applewood Village Shopping Center with various retail and restaurant uses. The applicant here is requesting to modify the underlying zoning impacting planning areas 3 and 6 as shown on the screen. The property is zoned planned mixed-use development. The properties to the west and south are planned commercial development, and across I-70 to the east is a combination of planned commercial development and low-density residential zoning. So the approved zoning documents organize the site into 8 planning areas, each with different permitted uses and development standards. The master developer, Evergreen DevCo, has worked to develop the site and identify tenants for each planning area. The zoning envisioned for planning area 3 as a walkable commercial area, including a mix of restaurant, retail, and entertainment uses across several buildings. With this amendment, Evergreen is proposing to relocate the pedestrian-oriented restaurant and entertainment district to planning area 6 on the west side of the development and further allow freestanding buildings with drive-throughs in planning area 3. This planning area is currently vacant with SDPs in for review for a Home2 hotel, a Bird Call drive-through restaurant, and Bank of America. Crossing Drive is planned to intersect this planning area extending to and through planning area 6 and be constructed concurrently with the development of these active applications. Planning Area 6 was envisioned to have larger format land uses such as large retail users, entertainment uses, and hotels. A Lifetime Fitness facility resides in Planning Area 6 and 5 right now, and a Hampton Inn Hotel is currently being developed in Planning Area 7 just north of this subject impacted area. SDPs were recently approved for a Primrose School and a Bonfire Burritos drive-through restaurant, also in Planning Area 6. The vacant site between Lifetime and Hampton Inn on the west side has an SDP in for review for what they are calling the Lookout Restaurant Corridor. Includes 3 buildings surrounding a quarter-acre park and plaza, and this amendment would allow it to become the premier pedestrian-oriented restaurant and entertainment space in Clear Creek Crossing. A trail connection along the west side is currently under construction, completing the gap in trail connections from 32nd Avenue to Clear Creek. Rezoning to a planned development in the City of Wheat Ridge involves a 2-step process. And for the subject property, the 2018 approval of the Outline Development Plan, or ODP, and Design Pattern Book comprise the first step. These 2 regulatory documents establish the allowed uses and development standards for the property and establish access configurations for vehicles, pedestrians, and bikes. The second step for development in planned mixed-use development zoning is the specific development plan for each building, lot, or phase. Several SDPs have already been approved at Clear Creek Crossing, and this request is applying to the ODP, so step 1 in the process. So the applicant is requesting to modify the underlying zoning to revise allowed uses, setbacks, or build to, in this case, street, plaza, and multimodal requirements impacting planning areas 3 and 6, with the intent of relocating that district, the retail pedestrian district, over to the west side, and in turn creating a premier pedestrian corridor, or what we've been calling Paseo, to connect users from West 40th Avenue to and through these planning areas. Now I'll walk you through these in more detail. So this slide shows the ODP document itself. Drive-through uses are currently allowed in planning areas 1 through 7 without a limit on quantity. However, they must be attached to multi-tenant buildings in planning area 3, and the applicant is requesting to allow freestanding buildings with drive-throughs in this planning area in exchange for limiting them to a maximum of 3 in any single planning area and to a maximum of 5 between planning areas 3 and 6. The ODP sketch plan, which is shown snippet on the bottom of the screen, is proposed to be revised to specify that pedestrian connections are required to and through these planning areas, in addition to required vehicular connections that were identified on the original. The design pattern book contains substantive standards for site design, building architecture, landscaping, lighting, and signage for each planning area of Clear Creek Crossing. And the key changes here proposed relate to the purpose and standards of planning areas 3 and 6, the addition of the Crossing Drive Paseo, street sections and standards, expanding upon multimodal requirements, and revising plaza and gathering area requirements. Subordinate cleanup items include the request to dissolve the Architectural Control Committee, or ACC, adding references to the Lutheran Master Sign Plan in sign standards, and revising lighting requirements. Now we'll go through these. So planning area 3 and 6 standards, starting with the build to. So build tos are meant to push buildings closer to the street to enhance the pedestrian realm. And because the primary pedestrian corridor is being reconfigured with this proposal over to that west side, build tos in planning area 3 are being proposed to change. So with this proposal, Clear Creek Drive build to in planning area 3 would only apply to a portion of this planning area instead of the whole thing. This would allow the southeast corner of Clear Creek Drive and 40th Avenue to contain a single building that fronts along 40th Avenue instead of what was originally anticipated was a multiple building development that fronted both 40th and Clear Creek Drive. And this would impact the Home 2 hotel site that we have in for review now. Currently, no parking is allowed within 50 feet of the Clear Creek Drive and 40th Avenue intersection. The applicant is proposing to allow parking here, but add requirements for screening and pedestrian connections at this intersection. Plaza space will still be required in this planning area and is proposed at this corner with the Home 2 SDP. The West 40th Avenue build 2 requires 30% of buildings along the frontage to be within 20 feet of the property line. They're proposing to allow buildings to be a little further away, but instead increasing how much of the frontage needs to contain a building to keep that interface with Clear Creek Drive. This helps to accommodate grade changes and drive-through uses by allowing for vehicular and fire access on all sides of the building. And for planning area 6, we're seeing changes to the signage, plaza, and public art requirements that I'll get into in just a minute. So here's kind of the big picture proposal. When the applicant proposed to move the restaurant district to the west side of Clear Creek Drive, staff required that enhanced pedestrian connection be provided from the hospital to the district they were proposing. To that end, and to increase visibility and create a comfortable pedestrian connection, the applicant is proposing an enhanced Crossing Drive Paseo to prioritize pedestrians through these planning areas and create a unique sense of place. The illustration on the screen and in your packet shows Crossing Drive and how it will relate to the adjacent current and future sites. So, Crossing Drive will be required to provide the following: a raised intersection and enhanced crossings, varied paving types to differentiate the roadway from sidewalks, crossings, and intersections, a minimum of 12-foot wide pedestrian walkway for the entire length of the Paseo on the west side, a minimum 6-foot detached sidewalk and 6-foot tree lawn along the east side, an overhead gateway feature at the Lookout Restaurant corridor entrance, overhead street lighting, street trees, lighting, and amenities such as benches, and private developments will be encouraged to integrate with the Paseo by providing adjacent patio spaces and amenities and minimizing the view of parking adjacent to the street. This slide shows the section northeast of Clear Creek Drive. And then this slide is kind of giving you a visual of the raised intersection that would be proposed. And this is where individual sites like Home 2, Bird Call, Bank of America would get their direct access from. And this is the southwest section, and main entry at the Lookout corridor, and Primrose School would be located like on the right side of your screen, vacant lot on the left side. Additionally, multimodal standards have been expanded upon. This is to reflect the ongoing partnership between the developer, city, RTD, with the goal of accommodating bus service and transfer station at Clear Creek Crossing. A bus stop was recently added at the hospital site, and because Clear Creek Crossing is at the end of the service line, accommodations are needed to appropriately serve RTD and the Wheat Ridge community. This will create a truly multimodal development and more comprehensively meet the intent of the original zoning, inclusive of designs oriented towards vehicles, bikes, pedestrians, and trail users and transit users. A bus transit station is being designed along the eastern edge of Clear Creek Drive, eastern edge of Planning Area 6, so the one we've been talking about. And once the transfer station is complete, RTD has committed to reinstating additional bus service to the west side of the city, such as routes 28 and 32. The red dots on this slide show the locations of the bus stop and future transfer station. In addition to the original requirement that planning areas 1, 3, and 6 provide at least 5,000 square feet of plaza and gathering areas, a new requirement of 10,000 square feet plaza is being proposed in planning area 6 to further augment the relocated restaurant and entertainment district within Clear Creek Crossing and integrate with the West Side Trail. Some subordinate cleanup changes go over now. The master developer Evergreen, who is applicant on the proposal, is additionally requesting to dissolve the Architectural Control Committee, or ACC. The city's standard review process has been working well and will remain in place in partnership with Evergreen for all future development. There's no precedent for an ACC in Wheat Ridge, and now that we're through the majority of new development at Clear Creek Crossing and have a baseline established, staff supports the dissolution of the ACC. Next is references to the recently adopted Lutheran Master Sign Plan, which supersede design pattern book standards, so are just referenced here. Lighting minimums are proposed to decrease based on feedback on property lumen levels from surrounding neighbors and as well as best practice. And the document now looks a little bit different formatting wise than the original because it needed to be more user friendly, be able to find page numbers and such. So in terms of process, the request required a neighborhood meeting be held prior to the application being submitted, and that took place in January of 2024 with 10 members of the public in attendance. This application was also sent on referral to service providers, and there were no concerns. And before the hearing, the property was posted for 15 days, and letters were sent to property owners and residents within a 1,000-foot radius, and the project was posted on Wheat Ridge Speaks, and no comments came in. Planning Commission recommended approval on November 21st, and City Council will be the final decision maker on the request. So with this, staff finds that the zoning promotes the health, safety, and general welfare of the community and will not result in a significant adverse impact on the surrounding area. The change in use and standards does not affect the demand on public infrastructure. The amendment is consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan and purpose of the underlying zoning, and it is appropriate to amend the zoning standards to recognize market realities while enhancing the public realm. So ultimately, staff is recommending approval of case number WZ 2401, and I'm happy to answer questions, and the applicant does have a presentation. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stevens. We would go to, pardon me, public comment, public opportunity to speak now on this public hearing. We have no one signed up in City Hall to speak on this.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Stephanie mentioned that the applicant does have a
Oh,
presentation. as well.
I'm sorry, the applicant has I'm sorry. All right, well, we'll entertain the applicant then. Sorry, I got ahead of you. Would you please please give us your name and spell your last name, please?
All right, yeah, my name is Derek Liss, L-I-S. And yeah, Stephanie did a wonderful job outlining everything. I'll try to breeze through my presentation and not duplicate as much as possible. So, yeah, as I said, my name is Derek Liss. I'm with Evergreen Development Company. And we're happy to be here to present this overall development plan Block 2 amendment. Let's see, so Evergreen and City of Wheat Ridge have, in my opinion, done a great job in partnership on Clear Creek Crossing since 2016. This is a 110-acre mixed-use site that has had a lot of challenges, and we're really proud of what we've built so far and really excited about the upcoming development and getting it completed here in the next few years. Evergreen just celebrated its 50-year anniversary. So we've been around for a long time and completed over 700 projects, and majority of them in the Southwest in Colorado, Arizona, Utah, and California. We do retail, multifamily, and now industrial projects. So we've got a long track record of success. And this is a somewhat recent aerial, and to date at Clear Creek Crossing, obviously the Intermountain Health Hospital is now open and a huge anchor there on the northeast corner of the project. We've completed 2 separate phases of multifamily. First the Clear Creek Apartments, and then most recently the Outlook Table Mesa. And then on the southwest corner is Lifetime Fitness. And then moving to the southeast corner, we've got the Maverick, used to be Come and Go, and then Dutch Bros, along with Foothills Credit Union. So we've kind of completed the outer circle and now are really honing in on kind of the middle part of the project, and really excited to bring an entertainment and restaurant destination for the city, the region, and the neighborhood for everyone to enjoy. So this ODP amendment came about as we previously were planning our Harvest District or Harvest Village development on the vineyard area there on planning area 3. It did not come to fruition. It just was not met correctly with market forces. So we felt moving it to the west and creating a public park that could overlook the pond was a better use. And the market proved it right, as we've had a lot of substantial interest and some great users planned for this, what we're calling the Lookout. And a lot of this is what Stephanie went over, but Crossings Drive is going to be our main connection now between the hospital and the Lookout. And we're really excited to bring this kind of Paseo pedestrian experience to connect the walkability of Clear Creek Crossing. This is the kind of the raised intersection in the middle of Crossings Drive. So we feel like with the elevation change and the change in materials, this is going to really slow traffic down. This area is not meant to be a shortcut for traffic, and really mindful of pedestrians. And the highlights on Crossings Drive will be a repeating pattern of colored concrete and banding, the 20-foot wide sidewalks with at least 12 feet of clear sidewalk is going to be a big wide width for people to make this path. Everywhere else in the development, it's a 6-foot detached sidewalk, so it's going to be quite a bit bigger. The raised intersection and enhanced crosswalks will provide easy and safe access to all of the adjacent businesses. And then the overhead lighting that provides a unique nighttime experience. Let's see, I think that's about it. So with that, Stephanie and I are available for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further staff presentation, Mr. Goff?
That is it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So we will open this up to comments from the public. I have no one signed up in the hall to speak on this item. Ms. Clerk, has anyone signed up online?
No, no, Mayor.
Okay, so we have no members of the public that wish to speak on this, so I will turn it over to questions from council. Councilor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was wondering, are we going to connect into the neighborhood like with a pedestrian trail like on Alkire, so that maybe the homes in that area would have a walking pathway into the area without having to go all the way down to the main street?
Originally, we did look at that. There's a significant grade change between those areas. The path that is being constructed right now is just south of the Coors Pond, and then it goes to the Applewood Golf Course and connects at 32nd. To make any direct connections to those cul-de-sacs, I think there would be some private property that would have to be given or taken, or some easements. And then, yeah, it'd be, I don't know the exact grade change, but it's upwards of 10 feet or more, and wouldn't be ADA accessible and all those kind of challenges. So unfortunately, they would have to go around. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Prospect is talking about with individual neighbors, maybe making some gate openings so that they don't have to make, those individuals don't have to go all the way around, but it's not a public access point.
Thank you.
Further questions from council? Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for all the good visuals on this. It really helps a lot with the complexity of the project. In general, I'm enthusiastic about the swap. I think it's actually, in hindsight, a really probably a better placement for this type of use. Honing in a little bit on the design for the pedestrian-focused street connecting the hospital with this district. I think I saw in there somewhere that the bike lane is just 4 feet across. Is anyone able to confirm the on-street bike lane? In my understanding, there's on-street bike facilities just on one side of the street, and then the other side of the street is a 12-foot multi-use facility.
So we're currently reviewing the Crossing Drive civil plans, but you're correct. I believe that it is a 4-foot wide bike path on the east side. We can look at the cross sections, but I think that's the most we could get. We tried to use the land area that was originally founded for what was going to be that Harvest Village retail district. So we've stayed within those tract boundaries and using what we can within there. So I think we're going to have to keep to the 4 feet and then allow for bikes to be using the multi-use paths that are 12 feet wide.
Okay, so I just want to speak to, like, a 4-foot bike lane is actually not a particularly safe bike lane for bicyclists or for cars. It forces the bicyclist into the gutter. And so bicyclists is going to, by nature, want to ride on the outside edge of that lane. So the minimum standard recommended by AASHTO and NACTO is 5 feet for that type of bike facility. And I think given that this is in close proximity to heavily used regional trail and anticipating quite a bit of neighborhood traffic on bikes, I think we want to make sure that that's usable and accessible. And a conversation that's come up in the context really was the west of Kipling 38th Avenue plan, but recognizing when we don't provide the on-street bike facilities on a portion of the road, then the default is to go onto the sidewalk. And in the era of e-bikes, it makes for an unpleasant pedestrian environment. So, this is a relatively short segment of road, but I just want to recognize when we don't provide that on-street bike facility that we are, by default pushing bikes to go consider getting on that pedestrian-friendly sidewalk. So to that end, what is the speed limit that is being considered to be set? It sounds like that's still being contemplated?
Well, it is a private road,
Yep.
not city right of way, and it's not very far, so I think 25 makes the most sense
Okay.
in that area.
So I would, as the engineering is going through on this, just really taking under consideration the passage of both people on foot and people on bikes, the increased use of e-bikes, and in designing the road so that, in that short passage, we can set a speed limit, but the design of the road really discourages fast travel through there by cars. But I really appreciate that it's being considered. My second question, and I may be beating my colleague to this, but did you contemplate doing a roundabout in that intersection where it crosses with Clear Creek crossing the main road?
Where it crosses Clear Creek Drive.
Yeah.
Not really. That was part of phase one that was constructed 2-3 years ago, and we really didn't want to obstruct anything or build anything new that the traveling public has already gotten used to.
Okay. Well,
There will be a roundabout though at the lookout. So as you continue west, it enters through a roundabout to get to that restaurant corridor.
okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Counselor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. And my question is very similar in terms of getting around this from here to there. If you'd put either the site plan illustration or the photograph you had I thought that was pretty good. And because that will help me kind of zero in on the area I'm talking about. Most of what I'm thinking of, though, has to do with service access and deliveries and trash pickup and that sort of thing. And looking at there you go, the road that will, if you continue on West 40th at the intersection and continue straight, will that be simply a service road, or will there be automobile access to that as well? The one that runs behind Primrose and between Primrose and Lookout?
That is vehicular access as well. Yes.
And so-
Not just service loading.
Not
It won't be
just-
limited.
Okay,
No.
so, but deliveries and whatnot will go through that access, or is there other ideas for that?
And you're just talking on the far west side of the screen on the lookout.
Right, that's my first question.
Yeah.
Between Primrose and Lookout, will that be sort of the access point for service deliveries and trash and whatnot?
It will be. If they're coming from 40th, it certainly makes a lot of sense to just go straight and come in. If they're coming from the south, they would use Clear Creek Drive and then turn left on either Crossing Drive or continue north to that service drive. They can use either one, and the Crossing Drive width and then coming into the lookout with the roundabout, they should be able to service all three of those buildings.
And so I understand, Crossing Drive will be it'll be automobiles, it'll be pedestrians, it'll be bicycles, it will be pretty much everything, including, well, okay.
Yeah.
The same question applies then to the Area 3 home suites and Bird Call. I'm, especially for Bird Call on the bank, I'm looking for the access point, the service access and whatnot on that. Will that be on the south of that building there?
Yeah, we show an access road on the south of both of those lots. That'll serve not only those two, but then also that future development that's to the south. That'll be kind of the main entry point on the north side. And so then you can get into each of those sites. You can go around the building fully for fire access, but also for the drive-throughs.
A very important point. Fire access is something that it appears, if I'm reading this correctly, then access should be allowed, it should be acceptable then.
It should be, yeah. That we've gone through many iterations and.
Okay, and then the last question on that same thing, going back to the drive, the unnamed drive between Primrose and the Lookout, will that continue on past or through the Lifetime lot?
Yes, and that is existing today. It goes all the way from the where it's showing a signalized intersection all the way south of Lifetime and comes back out for Clear Creek Drive.
It runs all the way to the south then? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Ulm.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for staff. It looked like there was a modification to add back in drive-throughs. And I don't know what the word for it was. Before it sounded like it was like an attached drive-through, and now it's detached drive-through.
Yeah, so before it was like it had to be like a multi-tenant shopping center type of building to be able to have a drive-through, and they're proposing to allow it just single building. So for example, Bird Call is one of the ones that we would need this ODP to pass for them to be able to come in. So just single tenant drive-through user is what's being requested to be allowed, with a limit on the number of drive-throughs that would be allowed overall.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Snell.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for this presentation. Just to clarify on the RTD transfer station, is the thought or the plan so far to have that constructed simultaneously with the other construction, or will that be afterward?
So it is in design stages right now. Some of these applications are a little bit further along, such as Primrose. So we'll probably see Primrose School be developed and then the RTD station come in a little bit after that, but pretty close to concurrent.
Got it. And then the bus stop would be open before the transfer station?
The bus stop is open
It's
right
open
now on
It's
the
open now.
hospital
Okay.
site. Yes.
I got confused. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Counselor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the number of drive-throughs, detached drive-throughs is 5? Is that?
So that would be between planning areas 3 and 6. They're still allowed in some of the other planning areas in Clear Creek Crossing without a limit on number. That's a take on the original zoning. So this is new for a limitation, 5 between the 2 planning areas that we've been talking about.
So give me an example of what that sort of looks and feels like. Is that, so Bonfire, I'm assuming, has a drive-through. Don't they have a drive-through typically?
Yep. So Bonfire has one, Bird Call and Bonfire is actually though in planning area 7, so it doesn't count towards that maximum. So basically what you see on the screen, the only other potential areas for drive-through is those future development sites. And then the Bird Call and Bank of America both have drive-throughs. So we could see up to 3 additional drive-throughs in what's shown as vacant sites on the screen.
So not in the Lookout area?
That's correct. The Lookout is not proposed to have drive-through uses.
Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
I don't see any more questions from council before I close the public hearing and ask for a motion. Going to close the public hearing, and Mayor Pro Tem Stites may I have a motion on this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve Council Bill number 26-2024, an ordinance approving an amendment to the existing planned mixed-use development, PMUD, zoning at Clear Creek Crossing on second reading, and that it takes effect 15 days after final publication for the following reasons. The Planning Commission has recommended approval of the rezoning after conducting a proper public hearing. The proposed rezoning has been reviewed by Community Development Department, which has forwarded its recommendation for approval. The proposed rezoning has been found to comply with the criteria for review in section 26-603 of the Code of Laws.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Counselor Hoppy. Do we have discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
We will now go to agenda item number 3. Counselor Snell, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. This is Council Bill number 27-2024, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning regulation of natural medicine services and healing centers. At issue in 2023, the Colorado General Assembly approved the Colorado Natural Medicine Act, creating a regulatory structure for natural medicines and the operation of licensed healing centers. Under the act, the city may regulate the time, place, and manner of healing centers licensed by the state, but the city may not prohibit the uses entirely. This ordinance allows healing centers in the city's commercial, industrial, and mixed-use zone districts in a manner similar to medical offices. The ordinance also memorializes the state enacted separation from schools and daycares.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on second reading. It is a public hearing. It is not quasi-judicial. I'm going to open the public hearing. And Mr. Goff, do we have a presentation on this issue?
We do. Our city attorney, Mr. Dahl, will do this tonight.
Mr. Dahl.
Thank you very much. The reading of the issue covered a fair amount of what I would want to tell you. The 2023 Act by the General Assembly did set up this structure that includes a state license. And, pardon me, there is a state licensing agency that's now in place. It's been promulgating regulations, and it's allowed now to start issuing licenses as of the first of the year. So it's important that the city be in position with respect to its zoning restrictions. That's because the state statute says that the state may not issue a license for a location that's not allowed under local law. And so it's important that we get this local law in place to say where healing centers are allowed in the city. As the council knows, at study session, you had, I think, a really good discussion about what are these centers really about, and how do we care about them, and do we care differently than we would care about them if they were medical centers? And I think the direction we really got from the council was, no, this is therapy, and not unlike other forms of medical treatment. We want to permit therapy in largely the places where we permit medical offices now. And so if you'll see, there's an attached diagram to the ordinance. The ordinance says that these uses may be permitted in the zone districts in the city that are commercial, industrial, and mixed-use district. And we reflected that, of course, in the table of uses that's embedded in the ordinance. But probably more useful is the attachment that you see, the colored map that you see attached that shows the commercial, industrial, mixed-use zoning in blue, and the pink circles are the 1,000-foot radii around schools and daycares that the state statute says are, just as a matter of state law, not allowed for these uses. So we've carried forward that 1,000-foot radius into the ordinance that you see, and then implemented the council's direction that these centers can be in any of the blue areas that aren't overlain by the pink circles. And that's really where medical centers can be now, with the exception that you could have a medical center that wasn't a healing center, and it could be in a blue area that's overlain by a pink, but the state statute takes that away. But nevertheless, it still leaves quite a bit of property, as you see, available for these locations. Other cities have chosen to do a number of things around this, including nothing, just completely relying on the state statute. Although I think that abrogates your ability to say, well, in the middle of a residential district, do we want a license for this kind of activity? And I think you've chosen a middle ground that's perfectly appropriate. Some cities have chosen to also have their own local licensing system. But your view was, and I support it, that this is therapy like other forms of therapy, and we don't really need to issue licenses for that kind of activity. Certainly, they'll get a business license, but that's not a license that's specific to the specific business itself or the type of business. That's my thumbnail sketch. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. We have no one from the public signed up to speak on this in the hall, and no one joining us online, so I will go to questions from council. Are there questions from council on this or any other questions for staff before I close the public hearing and ask for a motion? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, and let's see, we got Councilor Snell, I believe, on this one. Would you please provide a motion?
I move to approve Council Bill number 27-2024, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning the regulation of natural medicine services and healing centers on second reading, order it published, and that it takes effect immediately.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Hoppe. We have discussion on the motion. Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to agenda item number 4. Councilor Larson, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. This is Council Bill number 28, 2024, an ordinance approving an amendment to the Prospect Park Outline Development Plan for property located at 11600 West 44th Avenue. This is case number WZ 2407. At issue, Applewood RV Resort LLC is requesting approval of an amendment to the Prospect Park Place ODP at property located at 11600 West 44th. The purpose of the request is to amend the existing zoning to expand RV camping uses into Lot 1, located on the northernmost portion of the site.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on second reading. It is a public hearing. It is quasi-judicial. I'm going to open the public hearing. And Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
We do. Elena Olivas Lorera is here this evening.
Sorrell.
Good evening. My name is Elena Olivas Loera, and I'm a planner with the City of Wheat Ridge Community Development Department. I'm presenting case number WZ 2407, which is a request for approval of an amendment to the Prospect Park Place ODP to expand RV campground uses to Phase 2 of the development located at 11600 West 44th Avenue. I would like to enter into the public record the contents of the case file, the zoning ordinance, the comprehensive plan, and this digital presentation. The property is within the City of Wheat Ridge. All appropriate notification and posting requirements have been met, and therefore City Council has jurisdiction to hear this case. The property is located on the south side of West 44th Avenue, just east of Tabor Street. According to the Jefferson County Assessor, the site is just over 6 acres in size and currently contains the Applewood RV Resort. There are multiple buildings located on the property, currently used for commercial, retail, and offices, in addition to the RV parking spaces located on the southern portion of the site. The site is zoned planned commercial development under the Prospect Park Place ODP. Adjacent properties to the north are zoned residential 3, commercial 1 to the west, and agricultural 1 to the south and east. Uses in the vicinity include residential, commercial, and parks and open space. The site was originally zoned commercial and agricultural and was rezoned to planned residential development in the early 80s to allow for residential uses. The site contained a mobile home park. In the late 80s, the property was rezoned from planned residential development to planned commercial development, which established the RV park campsite as a permitted use on the southern portion of the site. The northern portion remained commercial. The city collects lodger's tax on the RV park and would continue to do so should the use be expanded to the northern portion. Sorry, this is irrelevant now. The request tonight is for an amendment to the existing ODP. The outline development plan establishes the zoning and development standards. The purpose of the request is to expand RV campsite uses to Phase 2 of the site on the northern side. Staff advised that a planned development was most appropriate because of the ability to customize the permitted uses and accommodate the unique nature of an RV campsite. The code allows for processing ODPs and STPs concurrently or sequentially, and the applicant has chosen the sequential 2-step option. The outline development plan establishes the planned commercial development zoning. The proposed amendment is a single page and was attached with the staff report. The standards proposed in this amendment would apply only to Phase 2. Phase 1 would continue to be governed by the original ODP. The sheet includes certification and signature blocks for the property owners, Planning Commission, City Council, and the Mayor. There's also a character of development statement, development standards, and other standard notes, as well as permitted uses and conceptual layout of the property, including access, open space, and phases. The ODP depicts the site broken up into 2 separate phases. Phase 1, which is the southern half of the site, was originally entitled in 1989, and this phase currently contains RV campsites. No changes are proposed in Phase 1, and it is proposed to remain as is. Phase 2, which is the northern half of the site, contains the main entrance onto the site and is situated along West 44th Avenue. The existing commercial buildings and the house on the north side are proposed to be demolished, and the site is proposed to be redeveloped for more RV campsite spaces. One building along the western property line is proposed to remain to be converted for restroom facilities. The applicant submitted a preliminary traffic letter from a traffic engineer with the ODP, which our engineering department reviewed and used to determine if a full traffic study would be required with the future SDP application. The letter stated that with the removal of the existing commercial buildings and the addition of the RV parking spaces, the adjacent roadway network would not be negatively impacted and the overall number of trips would be reduced. This table summarizes the development standards that are proposed in Phase 2 with the amendment. The proposed development standards are a combination of existing standards listed in the original ODP and new standards with the proposed land use in mind. The standards proposed with this amendment will apply only to Phase 2 of the site. The intent for Phase 2 of the site is to use it for RV camping sites, and most of the existing buildings on the northern portion of the site are planned to be demolished. The setbacks proposed are in order to ensure that the building that will remain on the site will be in compliance with the development standards of the ODP. The lot coverage accounts for the existing building that will remain and also provides a small amount of flexibility should a new building be built, though no new buildings are proposed as part of this project at this time. In all other areas, the project is proposed to comply with the zoning code, including lighting, fencing, and signage. This is a zoomed in and annotated version of the sketch plan within the amendment. The main entrance will remain unchanged to the northeast. Along West 44th Avenue, there will be a substantial 20-foot wide landscape buffer, which would include a 6-foot tall fence to provide some screening from the street. The proposed areas where the RV park spaces would be located are called out in the white areas. One-way paved roads would provide internal circulation around the site. The small building located on the west side is to remain and be converted into restroom facilities, and visitor parking spaces are proposed just in front of the building. The existing RV campsite on the south side will remain. We use several criteria to evaluate zone change requests, which includes consistency with the comprehensive plan. A full analysis of the criteria for consideration of the zone change were provided in the staff report. The neighborhood's designation encompasses this site and a majority of surrounding properties in the vicinity. Additionally, the site is located along a neighborhood commercial corridor. The proposed ODP amendment is consistent in addressing the neighborhood revitalization designation where the property is being invested in. The proposed amendment would allow for the site to become cohesive in use, would help facilitate the removal of existing aging buildings, and increase curb appeal through site improvements and increased landscaping. The proposed use on Phase 2 of the site, which the proposed amendment would enable, would help achieve the goals of the neighborhood commercial corridor designation by providing a mix of diverse uses on the corridor. The ODP reflects allowable uses, development standards, and architectural requirements that help with economic growth, promote quality design, balance compatible land uses, and retain community character. Additionally, by way of improving the site and enabling more cohesion between Phase 1 and Phase 2, the proposal is likely to result in a positive future outcome. The 44th Avenue Sub-Area Plan, which was adopted in 2023, also supports the request. The plan calls for the area to be residential with a mix of housing types as a priority as described in Strategy B2. Strategy D1 designates the area as a potential recreational tourism destination, and this particular goal within the plan would be further supported by the presence of the RV park. In response to additional questions that we received ahead of the Planning Commission hearing back in November, the 44th Avenue Sub-Area Plan included both an extensive traffic analysis and crime analysis for the 44th Avenue corridor. The traffic analysis determined the need for a new signal and pedestrian crosswalk at 44th and Tabor, which are on the 2J list and will be installed. The crime analysis did not identify this site as being in the top 5 for crime or safety concerns between the years 2014 and 2022. As a requirement of the zone change process, a neighborhood meeting was held on November 1st, 2023 via Zoom. 2 members of the public attended this meeting. Since Wheat Ridge is not a full-service city, we sent the application on referral to outside agencies, including fire, water, and sanitation, and we completed an internal review. We did not receive concerns or objections from outside agencies on the ODP amendment. Before the hearing, the property was posted for 15 days, and letters were sent to property owners and residents within a 1,000-foot radius. And Planning Commission recommended approval on November 21st, 2024. And staff received no comments from members of the public on Wheat Ridge Speaks prior to this hearing, but we did receive 1 comment via email. Staff believes the zone change request meets the criteria. It allows for a compatible and balanced land use. It complies with the comprehensive plan and 44th sub-area plan, and it promotes economic growth and quality design. All agencies can serve the property, and the proposal is in line with the criteria for an amendment to the ODP. Ultimately, staff is recommending approval of the request. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing further, Mr. Goff?
No applicant presentation this evening.
No, the applicant is available for question and answer, and then I can pull up, he did provide some exhibits that might be helpful depending on what your guys' questions are.
Okay, thank you very much. I have several members of the public that have signed up to speak on this. Our first member of the public to speak is Janice Thompson. If you'd please come to the podium and give us your first name. If you'd please spell your last name for the record and tell us whether you live or work in Wheat Ridge.
My name is Janice Thompson, Thompson, and I live in Wheat Ridge, and I'm in this area. One of the interesting things about this piece of property, the house, I think you said the house was going to be torn down. Is that correct? Yes. Anyway, I hung out at that place a lot. And, but years ago, when my friends moved into that house in 1949 or 1950, there was a big sign over the driveway, and it said "West a Ways." And it was thought that this might have been one of the stagecoach stops for the, the property, the land, maybe not that house. But anyway, that's interesting. The reason that I'm here is I was just curious about the landscaping and stuff. Fruitdale has been trying to improve the area there, and the house helps block a lot of the hodgepodge different kinds of campers, RV campers that are back there. And so I was glad to hear that you're doing extensive landscaping to the front. I wish that you could put a berm up and have your fence a little higher to cover up the rooftops of some of the RVs. But anyway, if the land can be improved, that would be good. And I would just ask for a lot of landscaping in the front like they have over at the townhouses over at 44th and Tabor. It would really improve it. And then I do have a question. The people that are using the park and everything, I think it's exciting, but the land to the east, that seems to be where people are going through to get to the park, and I don't know if that's private or not, but it would be nice if they had some kind of a sidewalk or something for access getting to the park. But anyway, it's there, and I'm glad that there's some improvement coming to the area. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We have one person signed up to join us online, John Douglas. Mr. Douglas, if you can hear us, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself and speak on this item.
Okay, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. Thank you.
All right. Hi, Mr. Mayor, council members. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I am here as the general contractor that would be doing this project. I'm only going to be here for answering if there was a specific question pertaining to that. We do have an engineer, I believe, that is in-house there this evening. And if there's any questions about that, he can entertain those ideas. But I am here if there are any questions. And Janice Thompson, I just wanted to address her comment about the landscaping and things, that's exactly what we're doing though. We are going to make that very nice out front with the landscaping and yes, the older home that's out in front is going to be demolished and those buildings that were the old retail buildings are coming down also. So that's going to actually beautify that and I believe fit in your master plan along that 44 corridor. So with that said, I'm just going to sit back and listen and I appreciate you guys listening to what we have to say.
Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes the public comments that I have on this item. I will open it up to questions from council. Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question about, well, I have two questions. How many people does the RV park currently serve, or how many overnight stays are possible currently on the existing site?
I will defer to either Jonathan. Do you know the answer to that? How many current RV spaces there are at the park?
Current, I do not, but on the proposed, on that north side there, I believe is 32. Is David, Lena, is David in there with you?
Yes, yes.
Okay, he may have that information. I don't have it with me.
If you would please come to the podium and if you would please introduce yourself and give us your last name for the record, please.
Yes, hi, my name is David Tyson, last name spelled Theisen. I'm civil engineer on the project. And yeah, the total maximum was 32, but I think we're actually going to only be closer to 30 on the proposed units. No changes to the existing.
How many currently existing are? So what are the existing and how many are we adding?
I don't know that off the top of my head on the existing. It wasn't part of the scope of this project.
Okay.
We were looking at the redevelopment of the northern portion.
Okay. Well, I guess my question has to do with whether this falls, because that's, you know, if just looking at the size, and it looks like the lower side's a little bit bigger, and if you're going to put 30 on the top, then there must be at least spaces for 40 or 50. Does that kind of look right from that picture? So that's almost what, 80-ish, 80 to 90 spaces. Does this begin to fall under our lodging and like, when does it become a hotel? And I'm looking at our chief of police actually. Around, does this apply, would this apply to the hotel policy with calls and things like that? Because I'm just thinking that this is considerably bigger than an RV park of 40 or 50 spaces is one size, and going up to more of 100 spaces just makes it a slightly different size. So I'm just kind of curious if we're prepared or if we've thought about this being more of a hotel type space at this point, and if it would fall under, if we have issues with crime and calls and things like that. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think Mr. Dahl's looking up our hotel licensing ordinance.
Or maybe the rest of you don't think it's an issue. I'm
Yeah.
just a little concerned when we're almost doubling the space of, and
Currently don't treat it as a hotel, but
right, I understand.
with the expansion, I don't know if our ordinance addresses a specific use like this, that it should be under the hotel licensing ordinance. I don't know if we can find that right now, but if there's more questions, we'll continue looking, but.
Just curious if it's something we should be thinking about. Thank you.
All right, we'll give Mr. Dahl a little chance on that. In the meantime, we'll go to Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. So a couple questions. One is the front, the landscaping, the fence. So could you tell me, like, how tall is the fence? How far is it set back from the sidewalk? Is there gonna be landscaping between the fence and the sidewalk?
Yes. So the total landscape buffer is going to be 20 feet wide. And yes, so there will be, I don't know if I have the exact measurement, but the fence will be set back a little bit from the sidewalk. And then there's going to be landscaping in front of that fence on the back of the sidewalk.
Okay.
And the fence is proposed to be 6 feet tall. That's the maximum that our code currently allows for fences.
And I would assume some type of solid fence?
Yep. It'll be an opaque wood fence.
Okay. And then the one question that was brought up is because of the proximity to Prospect Park on that southeast corner, it sounds like there's a social trail right now. Is that something that the owners want to kind of enhance, or they just want to keep it closed off? Or it looks like it's really close to the existing Prospect Park Trail.
Do you have an answer to that, or Jonathan, about?
This is off the property to the
Southeast corner, southeast, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that was discussed or anticipated with this as part of this project.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
I'm still on speaker here. Can I make a comment real quick?
Yes, you may.
I just got the number for the proposed and what total of existing. The total existing are 71. That's with the 30 proposed for this north side here, this north part. There was a question about how many spaces were there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes, I can answer Councilmember Weaver's question. Our hotel motel licensing scheme defines hotels, and it would not include what's going on here. The hotel under that licensing scheme is defined as a transient lodging establishment renting individual rooms for temporary occupancy. What's being rented here are not rooms, and instead are spaces for the parking of vehicles that people could then live in. This hotel licensing scheme could be broadened to cover that, but we would need to amend it to do that. And it would seem to me, and I don't mean to speak for the chief, but I know that what really energized or inspired the city to get into the hotel licensing business was the calls for service, et cetera. Unless, and it would seem to me in this policy call, but unless and until calls for service really would reach that level or turn into the same kind of problem that I think the city was trying to address with the hotel licensing and calls for service metric, I wouldn't think that it would be necessary to broaden it, but the system now does not cover this kind of operation. It would have to be amended to do so. Yes, it's calls for service that prompts an issue with your license as a licensed hotel. We would not even, that system doesn't even apply to this operation because it doesn't fall within the definition of hotel. Yeah.
If I could add to that, I just asked the chief, we don't really have a high level of calls for service to this RV park currently, no more than any other business. And police department treats the individual RVs as individual homes essentially. So, so it would be enforced as we would as in a neighborhood currently.
Councilor Larson, did you have a question? Okay.
Be very brief here. The commercial building that fronts 44th Avenue, is it occupied now?
John, do you know the answer to that?
It is not occupied now.
Okay. And there's no plans to lease it out in the future?
The commercial building on the front will be removed.
Okay.
That's what part of the proposal is, that and along with that existing home that was up there.
Okay. And I don't, yeah, that property, as everybody knows, has it couldn't seem to keep a tenant in place there, and you drive by, and every time you'd go by, there'd be somebody different there, and that's just the way things work. My other question, though, is just if you could sort of confirm for us the infrastructure, the water and sewers, and whether it's probably not a septic. What sort of facilities are in place now, and will there be adequate to handle the addition of 30 new spaces?
Yes, so it is currently on water and sewer. So no septic, nothing like that. We did send this proposal on referral to those external agencies, and they didn't have any issues at this time. We still have to go through the SDP process if the ODP amendment gets approved. So we will be re-referring the specific plans out to those agencies. And if there are any upgrades that have to be made, then that would be between those agencies and the applicant during that process.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to ask, the restroom facility that's going to be built, will that be a restroom facility that is off, like what you see at kind of like KOAs, it's restroom, shower, and laundry? Or is it just a restroom facility?
Jonathan, can you answer that question?
Yes, that's going to be a full facility there for the not residents, but the RVers.
Thank you.
Counselor Hulteen.
Thank you, Mayor. To Councilmember Weaver's point, this is a unique use of a site in our city. So two questions I have. One is there a dumping station as part of this project, or are we aware of where the closest dumping station is?
You're talking about the RV dump station? There currently is one. The plan is to remove it with part of the demo work. And then there would be connections for each one of the RVs to have their own.
Okay, great. And then is there any accommodation on the site for people to curb their pets? Is there like any like dog area or lawn area for people with pets? Because I know a lot of RVers travel with their pets.
John, do you want to chime in on that one?
I do not have an answer for that, but I think that, well, with the other, I've been to several of the other parks that the applicant owns and operates, and they all have dog parks or areas that the pets can run with, and they can walk their dogs mainly.
Okay.
And I'll add to that, with the intent with the 20-foot wide buffer was for the portion that's on the south side of the fence internal to the site was meant to also function as an amenity space for folks who are traveling with pets as well. So.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? I had one. Are most of the tenants in this park, are these people traveling around the country that stay for a couple of days or a week or so? Or I noticed that there was a 90-day limit, and do we monitor that as a city to that this doesn't sort of turn into quasi-permanent housing?
John can probably answer this better than me, but I've been told there's a whole mix of people. Some people come for a month, some people come for a day, but maybe John could give a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit further, there's a lot of work going on. Colorado, Wyoming, a lot of South Dakota, a lot of areas, and we do have a lot of work campers workers that come through and camp. They travel the country. They're specified in their occupations. They could be a welder, they could be a carpenter, concrete guys, but they come in and they work on a project. And so will they be there for a couple months? It's a possibility depending on the construction. But they literally work with the general contractors, and they come in, do their project, and leave. It's not set up for long-term residents, no.
So are they turned out after 90 days?
That I don't have the number on. I don't know that. That's something that in the operation of the applicant. Maybe I don't know if they've got an answer for that or not. I can get back with you here in just a second, I believe.
I believe that was in Elena's presentation, and one of the slides said it was a 90-day stay, and
it is. We just didn't know who was monitoring it, I think was the question, Mr. Mayor.
I think the slide said the property owner monitors that, the city does not.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Are there any further questions of the staff or the applicant before I close the hearing and ask for a motion? I'm going to close the public hearing, and let's see, what do we have on tap for this one? Mr. Larson, may I have a motion on the side?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Council Bill number 28-2024, an ordinance approving an amendment to the Prospect Park Outline Development Plan for property located at 11600 West 44th Avenue on second reading, ordered published by title in full on the city's website as provided by the Home Rule Charter, and that it take effect 15 days after final publication.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Dozman. Do we have discussion on the motion? Councilor Hulteen.
I'm sorry. I actually have a question. Is this subjected to any of our affordable housing governance? Like if we were treating this like a neighborhood that we were building or like a subdivision?
I don't think it's housing.
Affordable housing in what sense? We don't have an inclusionary zoning
Yeah, but
policy
I
right
mean,
now, so,
Yeah, I mean, is
yeah.
this, okay.
Yeah, I can't. imagine
No,
anything
it wouldn't. I think this is a tricky land use, I think, for folks, because I think in its eras, it's sometimes been more of a campground, it's sometimes been more of a mobile home park, and it is a one of its kind in Wheat Ridge, which is exactly why it has to be a planned development, because it doesn't fit neatly into any other zone district. But because it's not designed or proposed in its future state to be a permanent housing, then the affordable housing policies and regulations we've discussed previously would not apply here.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That was my question.
Is there any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays, the motion carries.
Thank you. Will take us to agenda item number 5. Councilor Weaver, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Council Bill Number 1-2025, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws, creating a new Article 14 entitled Mixed Use Lutheran Legacy Campus Zone District and making conforming amendments therewith. At issue, this ordinance creates a new Article 14 in Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws that establishes a new zone district. The zone district regulations establish development standards for the future redevelopment of the former hospital site based on the adopted Lutheran Legacy Campus Master Plan and City Council consensus. Approval of this ordinance will allow for the Lutheran Legacy Campus to be rezoned to the new MU-LLC zone district in the future.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. May I have a motion on this item?
I move to approve Council Bill Number 1-2025, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws, creating a new Article 14 entitled Mixed Use Lutheran Legacy Campus Zone District, and making conforming amendments therewith on first reading, order it published, the public hearing set for Monday, January 27th, 2025 at 6:30 PM as a virtual meeting and in City Council chambers, and that it take effect immediately.
We have a motion and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Stites. Would the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. We'll go to agenda item number 6. Councilor Hoppy, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Council Bill Number 02-2025, an ordinance amending Section 2-53 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning membership of boards and commissions. At issue, this ordinance clarifies that board and commission members who change their personal residence to another council district within the city may continue to be a member representing the district for which they were appointed until the end of the term for which they were appointed.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. May I have a motion on this item?
I move to approve Council Bill Number 02-2025, an ordinance amending Section 2-53 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning memberships of boards and commissions, order published by title and in full on city's website as provided by Home Rule Charter. Public hearing set for Monday, January 27th, 2025 at 6:30 PM as a virtual meeting and in City Council chambers, and that it take effect 15 days after final publication.
We have a motion and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Stites. Would the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays, the motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move to agenda item number 7. Councilor Dozeman, would you please introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill Number 03-2025, an ordinance adopting by reference the 2024 edition of the Model Traffic Code for Colorado, adopting amendments thereto, providing penalties for model traffic code violations, and making conforming amendments to Chapter 13 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws in connection therewith. At issue, the city is required to periodically review the Wheat Ridge Municipal Traffic Code to ensure conformance with state of Colorado traffic ordinances. The newest version of the Model Traffic Code was adopted by the state of Colorado in 2024 to stay consistent and up to date with the newest Colorado traffic codes and to ensure the citizens of Wheat Ridge are best served by the updated Model Traffic Code. Adoption of the newest code is recommended.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading, pardon me, to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. May I have a motion on this item?
Yes, I move to approve Council Bill number 03-2025, an ordinance adopting by reference the 2024 Model Traffic Code for Colorado, adopting amendments thereto, providing penalties for model traffic code violations, and making conforming amendments to Chapter 13 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws in connection therewith. Order it published, public hearing set for Monday, January 27, 2025 at 6:30 PM as a virtual meeting in the City Council chambers, and that it takes effect 15 days after final publication as provided by Sections 511 of the Charter.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Counselor Ohm. Would the clerk please poll the council?
Hard to keep up with Counselor Dozeman. All ayes, no nays. The motion carries.
Thank you. We will now go to agenda item number 8. Counselor Ohm, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance amending the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws to include police recruits as participants in the city's police pension plan at issue. Per the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws, membership in the police pension plan does not currently extend to recruits entering the academy. Recruits are therefore placed in the civilian plan for approximately 6 months, then enrolled in the sworn plan. This is administratively burdensome for staff and challenging for recruits. This ordinance amends the code to allow recruits to enroll immediately into the police pension plan.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. May I have a motion on this item?
Yes, Mayor. I move to approve Council Bill number 04-2025, an ordinance amending the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws to include police recruits as participants in the city's police pension plan on first reading, order published by title and in full on the city's website as provided by the Home Rule Charter. Public hearing set for Monday, January 27, 2025, 6:30 PM as a virtual meeting and in City Council chambers, and that it takes effect 15 days after final publication.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Counselor Hoppy. Would the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays. The motion carries.
Thank you. This will take us to agenda item number 9. This is a motion to elect the mayor pro tem. Each year, the city council members elect the mayor pro tem who serves until their successor is elected. The election is conducted according to Section 3B of the City Council Rules of Order and Procedures as follows. At the first or second regular meeting in January of each year, council shall select a mayor pro tem who shall serve until their successor is elected. The procedure is as follows. A, chair will announce that the floor is open for nominations for the position of mayor pro tem. B, nominations will be taken from city council members by voice, and no second is needed. C, each nominee will have the opportunity to address the council. And D, a motion and a second is then in order to elect one of the nominees to the position of mayor pro tem. If the motion is not carried, additional motions will be in order. And the mayor pro tem is elected by a majority of the council president. So at this time, I will open the floor to nominations for the mayor pro tem. Councilor Hulteen.
I'm so tired tonight. I would like to nominate Corey Stites for the mayor pro tem.
Okay, we have Corey Stites nominated. Are there further nominations? Further nominations? Okay, I'm going to close the nominations, and I would like to have a motion.
Yes, I move to elect Corey Stites to be the mayor pro tem for 2025 for the great and illustrious city council of the city of Wheat Ridge.
Do I have a second? We have a second by Councilor Ohm. Is there discussion on the motion? Would the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays. Congratulations. Mayor Pro Tem
Congratulations,
Stites.
Mayor Pro Tem Stites. You've been elected Mayor Pro Tem. Okay. With that, we will go to agenda item number 10. Councilor Dozeman, would you please introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 03-2025, a resolution designating the municipal building main entrance display cabinet as the official public notice posting location in the city's official internet webpage for city publications in 2025. At issue, state statutes require that each municipality annually establish the location for posting public notices, as well as the newspaper in which the notices will be published. Local government entities are also allowed to publish notices online for public meetings. These include meetings at which the adoption of any proposed policy, position, resolution, rule, regulation, or formal action occurs, or at which a majority or quorum of body is in attendance.
Thank you. This will be a resolution of the council. It is not quasi-judicial. Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
We don't.
Okay, thank you. I will open this up. I don't believe I have anyone signed up from the public to speak on this item. And I will ask if we have any online speakers, and we do not. I will ask if there are any questions of council before I ask for a motion. Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you. I just have a quick question. In the past, we've talked about the city has taken out ad space in the Gazette. We recognize that the Gazette cannot be used for our official paper of notice, but is the city continuing this year to use the Gazette as ways of reaching the public to let them know how they can track what's going on in the city, and to use the Gazette to let people know that this is where official notices is taking place?
Our substitute deputy city manager, city clerk, photographer can answer that this evening.
Failed to photograph. Photograph today. Yes, we actually still have a monthly ad in the Gazette. We can look at switching that up a little bit, but it does point people to our website for the official publication.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I had a question too. When we post our notices on the bulletin board outside, are they at a height that is ADA accessible?
That's a great question, Mayor. I'll look into that.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Hulteen, Hoppy.
The other H. Okay, so because I just want to know if we feel like we're at a point where we can go all digital and publish in front of the building, go all digital, if we can put in like notices every now and then in the Gazette to point them to our websites, do we feel like we can get out of the newspaper game?
We are, and this resolution allows us to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I thought it said it would be in the newspaper still. And I was like, stop doing that.
We do titles, certain publications, I think we have to do in the newspaper still with ordinances. And so we're doing the title in the newspaper, but the full ordinance is on the website.
Great, thanks.
Any further questions on this item? Okay, Councilor Dozeman, may I have a motion on this?
I move to approve resolution number 03-2025, a resolution designating the municipal building main entrance display cabinet as the official public notice posting location and the city's official internet webpage for city publications in 2025.
We have a motion and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Stites. Is there a further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
That's all ayes, no nays. The motion carries.
Thank you. With that, we will move to agenda item number 11. Councilor Hulteen, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you. It would be my pleasure. I would like to introduce item, sorry, I'm getting over here. Okay, I'd like to introduce the resolution acknowledging the climate emergency. At issue, this resolution acknowledges the climate emergency and reaffirms City Council's commitment towards taking action to reduce Wheat Ridge's contribution to climate change and mitigate its impacts in the community.
Thank you. This will be a resolution of the council. Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this
I
item?
believe so. Mary Ann Schilling. Will introduce.
Ms. Schilling.
Great, thank you. Council, as you may recall, Council had previously proposed bringing forward a resolution acknowledging the climate emergency, and so we are here tonight with that resolution. The goal of the resolution, again, is to reaffirm City Council's commitment toward making actions to reduce Wheat Ridge's contribution to climate change and mitigate its impacts on the community. Additionally, this resolution is a component of the city's recently adopted Sustainability Action Plan. So I'll now turn this over to our Sustainability Coordinator, Mary Hester, to present the resolution.
All right. Well, thank you, Mary Ann. And good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for having me here tonight. Tonight, I'm here to present a climate emergency resolution to you. And this resolution represents an important step in addressing the ongoing climate crisis, an issue that is already causing significant global impacts and will continue to threaten human life, health, the environment, and the economy if swift and significant action is not taken. Around the world, there have been 2,364 jurisdictions that have been known across 40 countries to declare or acknowledge a climate emergency, including many communities across Colorado, including Longmont, Lyons, and Nederland. This resolution was requested by Council members Hulteen and Weaver and is being brought forward in collaboration with Sustainable Wheat Ridge. And that committee has been our longstanding partner in advancing environmental sustainability in the city over the past several years. This resolution is also the first action item to be implemented from the recently adopted 2024 Sustainability Action Plan update. And Goal 3 from the communications and engagement focus area calls for engaging city staff and institutional partners to promote awareness of and support for the plan, with action item C 3.6 directly calling for the adoption of a climate emergency resolution. The science is clear, and according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, human-caused climate change is already leading to severe impacts, including more frequent and intense extreme weather events, droughts, wildfires, and floods. And while this resolution does not impose any new standards or requirements, it is a visible and symbolic step that ensures that Wheat Ridge continues to integrate sustainability into its municipal operations. It demonstrates our support for residents and businesses in becoming more aware of climate challenges and reducing their environmental impact, and reaffirms Wheat Ridge's dedication to protecting the future of its residents, community members, and the environment. So to wrap it up, staff is recommending your support for this resolution, and thank you again, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Before I go to questions from council, I would like to invite members of the public to speak. I have one member signed up to speak, Mr. Rob Robinson. If you please like to come to the podium and give us your first name and last name and whether you live or work in Wheat Ridge, and then we'll be happy to have you speak on this issue.
Thank you, Mayor. My name's Rob Robinson. I live in District 3, Fort Hillside Drive. I strongly urge each of you to vote for the climate emergency resolution. It is an emergency as seen in the recent fires in Los Angeles and numerous other extreme weather events around the world and in our nation. Each of the last 4 or 5 years have been a record year of heat for the planet, each one hotter than the previous year. I'd like to point out that Wheat Ridge is not immune from LA-type fire disasters. Recall the Marshall Fire. According to home insurance companies, the Front Range ranks as one of the highest wildfire risks in the country. A large fire west of here could spread down the Front Range, over the Hogback, Green Mountain, South Table Mountain, spreading flames and embers along our ubiquitous cedar fences and torching our homes, as happened in the Marshall Fire. This climate emergency resolution is an important communication toward educating the city's residents and providing notice of the city's concern to our neighboring communities and our representatives in the state and federal government. Hopefully you will thoroughly spread the word of our concern to all those people on an ongoing basis. I also urge, because I could take this off and maybe you'd hear me better. I have a hard time with the sound in this room. I also urge the city to take a more proactive approach to its own facilities to mitigate the climate emergency. The city has accomplished much toward a sustainable future for Wheat Ridge since the first sustainability planning 8 years ago. Even so, the city has yet to take advantage of significant and minimal cost opportunities to improve the city's facilities, including self-financing options, tax incentives. Well, that's not relevant to the city, but there are other incentives for building efficiencies and incentives to replace fossil fuel energy with renewable energy. A more proactive sustainability campaign for city facilities would make a significant leadership impact on the community-wide actions, while also making a significant local impact on the climate emergency. Thank you for hearing me out, and I appreciate your service.
Thank you, sir. I have no one else signed up to speak in the hall or online, so I will now go to questions from council. Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. I just want to, first and foremost, thank staff and the Sustainable Wheat Ridge Committee for their work on this. This was really thoughtfully put together, again, collaboration with staff and the Sustainable Wheat Ridge Committee. And I just, I was thinking about this a lot over the weekend, that this is coming before us in a week when the entire country, in fact, the globe, is bearing witness to what's happening in LA right now. And the weight of the headlines, especially when the Marshall Fire so recently was nearly in our backyard, it's just a stark and sobering reminder that our climate impacts, our quality of life and our resiliency. And when I moved to Wheat Ridge, it really reminded me of the neighborhood I grew up in. What I really loved about my neighborhood was that open space and nature was right down the street from where I was, and it really provoked a lot of curiosity about the natural world. I got a lot of interesting cuts and bites too, but in being an elected official in the city, I feel like we have just a moral obligation around stewarding people, place, and planet. And I think one of the things that makes Wheat Ridge just exceptionally special is that we have great people, a great place, and increasingly as our climate, which is data that we are tracking, and as Mr. Robinson said, each of the last 10 years has been record-breaking temperatures. So the lived experience we're having in our community is demonstrating that the climate is impacting our day-to-day quality of life. In the 12 years I've lived here, we've had 2 record-breaking floods. We've had record-breaking hail. Right before I moved here, we had some really interesting weather that caused significant damage in the Clear Creek. We've had different issues. So we've had flooding, we've had hail. We have not had significant fire, but we've had power outages for days because of high winds. So our weather is something that we as a community need to address through resilience. And so adoption of our sustainable action plan is really a great pathway for us to be looking at what are the actions we can be taking today that no longer are just stewarding future generations, but are actually things that our neighbors need in real time. And I didn't have an opportunity before coming tonight to really look into the insurance impacts around the climate in terms of the cost of living in communities. But as we've been watching the LA fires roll out, the impact on the cost of living through being able to insure where you live actually is like a real intangible effect that impacts us daily. So I'm going to just close with a favorite quote of mine. Helen Keller once said, "I am only one, but I am still one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do something that I can do." And I think it's a reminder Wheat Ridge cannot solve the world's climate problems, but we as stewards of this community, and I believe our residents and our business owners and our neighboring communities really want everyone to work together to make sure we're doing everything we can to make tomorrow great for our community and make today a safe place to live. So please support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further more questions for the staff? Okay. Councilor Hulteen, may I have a motion on this item?
Yes, you may. I just have to get to it. Sorry, I don't have the thing in my packet is not linking in, so I just have to scroll. Okay. I move to approve resolution number 4, 2025, a resolution acknowledging the climate emergency.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Hoppe. Is there discussion on the motion?
Mayor? Go ahead.
I believe Counselor Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to extend my thanks to Councilors Weaver and Hulteen for bringing this, but also to staff and our Sustainability Committee for continuing all their good efforts in this realm. And I'm in full support of this. And it is shocking, to say the least, of the amount of things that we're seeing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that can be tracked back to the climate crisis. Without stating too much more of the obvious, I am in full support of this, and I'm very thankful that we are going to have this as a city.
Thank you. Counselor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I move to revise the title of Resolution 04-20252, a resolution in support of urgent action in response to climate change. Use of the term climate emergency is inappropriate for a statement of the city's effort to reduce its carbon emissions over time and to improve the resiliency of its infrastructure. An emergency is something that is out of control, requires exceptional effort, and will conclude in the near future. Urgent action addresses a critical need in a manner that aligns with the goals and values. Urgent action has staying power and adapts to circumstances as they change. Climate emergency indicates this action takes precedence over all else. Finally, the term climate emergency is not recognized by many people, while climate change is familiar and understood by most. That's why I'm making this motion.
So you are making a motion to amend the motion, and what is
Amend the title.
Amend the title. So we have a motion to amend the title from Counselor Larson. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. So now we're going to discuss the amendment. Is there discussion, Counselor Hoppy?
But I just would like to say that it's a point of order. It's a motion because a motion has not been made yet. So it's a first motion. It's not an amendment.
We do have a motion. So this is an amendment.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, an amendment to the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, because I seconded it. Duh.
I don't know that Paul was part of it, but go ahead.
But so what I want everybody to understand is that if the amendment passes, then it amends the original motion. And so that's what you're voting on. It'll make the motion change than what the original motion was. And then I would also just like to comment that I have no interest in wordsmithing this. You either, I feel like you either vote for it or you don't, and I support it as it's written.
Okay, is there further discussion on the amendment to the motion? Counselor Weaver.
I also support it as it's written, simply because the word climate change is actually being targeted as a thing at the moment, as a phrase. And so I support the use of climate emergency rather than the proposed amendment.
Okay. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Counselor Dozman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I agree with changing the title in regards to urgent action to reduce climate change. I think that I do think that semantics and language matter, and we're not facing an immediate emergency in which we are needing first responders and all sorts of resources to respond immediately. I understand that we want to reiterate and reaffirm our commitment to increasing sustainability, and I definitely agree in supporting renewable energy research and technologies, and a lot of what we've done on a grassroots effort. But the strong language is really challenging for me in regards to policy specifically, towards businesses and economics, and the broader ripple effect and impact that this would have without really unintended consequences is the issue. So I think urgent action or reaffirming our commitment to sustainability is more appropriate.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Okay, I would like to call for a vote on the amendment. If the clerk would please pull the one moment. Okay, a yes vote on this would change the title of the amendment pursuant to what Counselor Larson discussed. A no vote would keep the original title of the motion. So would the clerk please poll the council on the amendment?
That's 2 ayes and 6 nays. The motion fails.
Okay, the motion fails. We will return to discussion on the original motion. Councilor Weaver.
I wanted to voice my support for this amendment. The reason it's really close to things I care about is that everything in this acknowledgement happens to our food growing areas. And so when people ask me, why is our food more expensive? Why? It's drier, it's hotter, it's less rain, it's all of the above, and that's why food is more expensive. And so for me, this is an emergency because climate change comes down to how we can get food around this country and feed people. Thanks.
Is there additional discussion on the original motion? Mayor? Yes, sir. Mr. Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I do have a prepared statement here. Thank you, Mayor. I would like to recognize the time and effort that went into building the foundation policy statements and the action plans that underpin the resolution. I would also like to recognize the many important steps these efforts have produced, efforts that have improved the quality of life across our community. However, as a member of this council, I cannot support the broad and overreaching statements contained in Council Resolution number 04-2025. Simply stated, my objection is that this resolution is not needed and will only serve to distract the city's attention from its obligations to keep the wheels turning and the lights on. Indeed, the fourth paragraph of the resolution begins with, while largely symbolic in nature. If largely symbolic, why call it an emergency? There is no point here tonight in arguing over the volumes of research into climate change, connections to floods and wildfires, or the normalization of the societal impact of natural disasters over time. What concerns me is the little regard given to the impact of these policies on our neighbors. Here in our little corner of Colorado, the retail cost of electricity, the dollar amount that shows up on our monthly utility bills, has increased by 40% over the last 5 years. The plain truth is that the rise in the price of electricity coincides with the decline in low-cost coal-fired power generation and the increase in wind and solar power. Simply stated, moving away from conventional power generation to alternative sources has become and will be ever more expensive. The unfortunate consequence is that this additional expense will fall disproportionately on those in our community least able to afford it. On the other side of the supply-demand coin, the outlook is equally gloomy. In yesterday's Sunday Denver Post, a lengthy article described the added stress to our power grid resulting from a growing population combined with construction of new data centers for cloud computing and AI. Add to that rising sales of electric vehicles and the electrification of residential and commercial buildings, and it's clear demand for power will steadily increase. When it applied to the Public Utilities Commission for permission to shut down by the end of this decade the last of the state's coal-fired power plants, Xcel stated that demand for electricity in Colorado will grow at a compound rate of 4% over the next 6 years. This is compared to growth of less than 1% since 2019. To be sure, investments are being made today in new power generation sources, into new technology that will improve efficiency, and to the many miles of new distribution infrastructure needed to facilitate that growth. Unfortunately, it will be years before we see the results of those investments. For today, insisting on city policies that signal we are doing our part in the fight against climate change will simply add to the growing burden carried by the power grid. Is it good governance to add demand to a grid already sagging under the weight of an uncertain and unreliable supply? When coupled with demand for more and more power, such policies will have the inevitable result of higher costs and lower reliability. My recommendation is that new regulations or changes to our city code brought in the name of this resolution include an independent analysis of projected savings in the use of power and how much demand will increase, even if it's voluntary. As I noted earlier, I fully support efforts by the city staff to add resiliency to all the working parts that keep Wheat Ridge safe, that help keep the lights on and the gears turning. These efforts are among the most critical functions any city can perform. However, my support is less certain for ideas and agendas that distract or divert our attention from those critical functions. enacting programs that will only have minimal real impact on what is clearly a global issue, while prematurely adding demand to an overburdened power grid is not good civic policy and something that I can't support. And that concludes my remarks on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Dozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a part of leadership Jefferson County is attending several sites throughout Jefferson County, and we had the opportunity to visit the National Renewable Energy Laboratory last week, actually, and it was very fascinating because what they were talking in great deal about can we get to carbon neutrality and discussing specifically resiliency and sustainability, especially as we increase technologies, to protect ourselves against cyber attacks, which the city of Wheat Ridge is well aware of, and things that could potentially harm the grid to a really significant extent. And it came up in a topic of conversation around how sustainable the renewable energies are. Like, we recognize that the technology and the research and the availability of the renewable energies are not at a level in which we can completely replace coal or gas. And so we're just not there yet. And I understand that, and I agree with and I support research and seeking ways in which we can be more sustainable and replace finite resources with more renewable resources. I just think that I agree with the language being very overarching, and I disagree with some of the issues in which we're taking it on the city level and trying to take it from more of a grassroots kind of community effort to policy wise that negatively affect an already struggling economy. And so I will be voting no against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
That's 6 ayes, no nay, 2 nays. The motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we will go to agenda item number 12. Councilor Ohm, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 05-2025, a resolution adopting the Wheat Ridge Prosperity Plan, an economic development standard for the city of Wheat Ridge. At issue in the early 2023, during its annual retreat with city management, council requested an update to the 2009 Economic Development Strategic Plan. In the late 2023, staff entered into a service agreement with Progressive Urban Management Associates, PUMA, to draft a new plan. Council was asked to adopt resolution number 05-2025, approving the new Wheat Ridge Prosperity Plan.
Thank you. This will be a resolution of the council. It is not quasi-judicial. Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
We do. We'll have a brief verbal presentation from our consultant. But first, I would like to thank Mr. Art first, our Economic Development Director, for shepherding this project to completion. We did present this to City Council at 2 study sessions. I'd also like to thank the strategic action team that we put together that included many businesses business owners in the city and others. Lowry Burnett, Tyler Downs, Tom Fox, Brett Hall, Stephanie McGee, Tad Overstreet, Paige Piper, Lindsay Reinhart, Heidi Sheard, Jim Schval, and Celeste Tanner all were part of the steering committee. But we do have Andrea here with Puma. She's going to give a brief summary to close this out and get it approved.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I'm Andrea. I'm here on behalf of the consulting firm Puma. We were hired in early 2024 to facilitate this economic development strategic planning process. I don't have a presentation. I just wanted to say a few words and be here for the plan approval. So yeah, my colleagues were here last month to present the near final version at the study session. We've since made a few tweaks and have submitted it in its final form for your approval here tonight. Just a little bit about the plan for those who might be less familiar. This is a forward-looking plan that provides short and longer-term recommendations, not just for the Economic Development Division, but also to help guide other departments and external partners. The plan is very data-driven, and it's built on a comprehensive market assessment. It also builds on a lot of existing planning work and engagement efforts, including coordination with the city plan throughout our process. The plan is organized around 4 key goal areas. The first is corridors, nodes, and redevelopment opportunities. Here we identify strategies for creating more walkable, dynamic retail corridors and looking at strategic investments around key redevelopment sites. Jobs, innovation, and light manufacturing is the second goal area. We look at ways to preserve and enhance existing industrial areas, as well as expanding employment and workforce opportunities. The third goal is attainability and quality of life. The 3 kind of overarching objectives here are enhancing multimodal access to business districts, public art and gateway improvements, and recognizing housing attainability and sustainability as key components to economic prosperity. And then the 4th goal area is the business support ecosystem, making sure that doing business in Wheat Ridge is efficient and fair, streamlining the Economic Development Division and the Urban Renewal Authority functions, and strengthening external partnerships with the variety of business development organizations you have here. So the tactical and implementation matrix in the plan's appendix contains a lot of detail on how to actually do all this stuff. We're really proud of this work. We think it takes a balanced approach to development, and it's aspirational while being grounded in reality and attainable. So just want to thank you for your time tonight and throughout this process.
Thank you. Does that, Mr. Goff, does that conclude your presentation?
That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. I have no members of the public signed up to speak on this, so we'll go to questions from council. Councilor Hoppy.
I just wanted to ask, after we adopt it, Steve, what is your plan with the Urban Renewal Authority board? Like your presentation to the board, or like kind of what's the plan with your board?
Specifically with the Urban Renewal Authority, we'll start working on one of the elements of it that we start talking about being a little more strategic with the Urban Renewal Authority, meeting with the board, coming up with a plan of how we become a little more defined on how we spend our tax increment financing and development that we will approve on there.
Great, thank you.
Additional discussion, or not discussion, questions for staff on this item? Hearing none, may I have a motion on this item? Councilor Ohm.
Yes, Mayor. I move to recommend resolution number 05-2025, adopting the Wheat Ridge Prosperity Plan and Economic Development Strategy for the city of Wheat Ridge.
Second. We have a motion and a second by Councilor Stites. Now, do we have any discussion on the motion? Councilor, let's see, Larson first, and Councilor Hoppe.
Thank you, Mayor. And I totally support the work you guys have put into this thing. It's thorough beyond belief. The amount of detail here. I would recommend that this could be put in a time capsule and would be as representative of what it is to live in Wheat Ridge and work in Wheat Ridge in the year 2024. It's a tremendous encapsulation of everything going on here. And I'm very interested to see how these recommendations are brought into our policies and things that happen down the road. Obviously, we won't know until those things happen, but I am, again, very much looking forward to some of the recommendations in here actually, become living, breathing things that happen.
Thank you. Councilor Hoppe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a member of the Urban Renewal Authority Board, I'm excited to have this new plan and kind of some new vision for how we go down the road. I do just want to bring up again, I brought it up last time, there are a few low-hanging fruits that are policy oriented that that council can take action on, like our business zones and things like that. And so I'll probably be speaking to that a little bit more in our open session during the retreat.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to quickly thank everybody who participated in this. And one of the things that we've done well as a council and our city has done very well over the last few years is not only adopt plans, but jump in 2 feet first and start implementing these plans. So as Councilor Hoppy said, I think, we can start on low-hanging fruit, but we need to really start adopting these and helping out our business community as much as possible. So thank you.
Thank you. Additional discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays. The motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes the business item portion of our meeting. We will now go to city managers matters. Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank Mr. DiTullio for coming in and recognizing staff for the cleanup they did. I just want to clarify a little bit, though. The Public Works Department did most of the work. I want to make sure they get the recognition they deserve. And Maria noted that it took about 2.5 hours. It was a mess. If you didn't see it, it's disappointing. Somebody will do that. So actually, I hope we find them. So if anybody out there that knows, has any idea who did this, please let us know. I did send an email out to council last Friday, I believe, with a homework assignment for our retreat. So I believe we asked you to have that done by the 22nd. Does that sound right, Ally?
Yep.
Ish. So if you have any questions about that, please reach out to Ally or myself. And we're almost getting pretty close to being ready for the retreat. We'll have an agenda we'll send out here in the next couple of days so that you have an idea what the agenda is.
Thank you very much.
I believe Mr. Dahl has something.
Okay. City attorneys matters. Mr. Dahl.
I do have one short item or a request. As the council knows, the charter amendment that went to the ballot was successful, both on the height and density issues, but also on just cleanup of the charter throughout. And one of the aspects of that cleanup was to render it gender neutral, which I think we were really successful in doing and finding ways that we thought would be awkward and difficult, but instead, actually, I thought made the charter easier to understand in a lot of places. That got me thinking about our code, and that's a larger task because it's a bigger book. But I think it probably is time, and I would ask the council if they'd form a consensus to direct me to bring code changes, possibly not all at once, maybe chapter by chapter. I would like to look into it to see if we can create an ordinance amending the code that says, change all the references to this, to that. It may not be that easy. When we went through the charter, we learned that if you just say that universally, you get some unintended consequences in terms of the context of how those phrases are used, and it almost requires you to look at it. But I think if we sort of load this up and ask for a word search and I'll have the paralegal at the firm, if you direct me to do so, kind of create a mechanism for us to be able to do that as painlessly as possible. But I do think it needs to be done, and it's something that we can do at sort of a paralegal level in terms of finding the stuff. And then I can oversee that and create an ordinance or ordinances for your consideration to render the charter, the code gender neutral. So that'd be my request. If you have questions, or I'd appreciate a consensus.
I'll support that.
Mr. Dahl requests that we.
Can I just real quickly, I'm still a little fuzzy on when you talk about 26 chapters being reviewed. Would it just be gender neutral things, or would there be, when you find another thing that could be updated?
No, I think it will be enough to stick to gender neutrality. There's plenty of other fixes, that we see occasionally when a project, often, good question, when a project comes through, a development project comes through, and we're applying a given development standard, sometimes that inspires a code change to fix that. But here, I think it will be enough, and just for the public to say, this is what we're doing, this is all we're doing, I think would be better.
No, I can support that.
Okay, so Mr. Dahl is asking for consensus on this, and I would assume that we're talking about, we're viewing this through the lens of a tight budget year.
Yes, that's why
All right.
I understand. Okay.
Okay, so.
Put that in the consensus.
It looks like with that, we do have consensus. Thank you, Mr. Dahl.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Did that conclude the?
It concludes my report.
All right, good.
I would I would not, paralegal is the.
The city
is the-
manager and
is-
I were literally texting.
Is the idea here. And that concludes
Okay.
my report. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have elected officials matters. Let's start with Counselor Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few things this evening. First, Happy New Year. It is 2025 and fingers crossed this is a good year, good for everyone. I wanted to just first say thank you to constituents that reached out to me in support of the climate emergency that we read earlier this evening. Anytime anyone reaches out, I'm always grateful. It's very nice to have that feedback and just make sure that folks are heard. And also the folks that took time to provide feedback on Wheat Ridge Speaks. So thank you for that. A couple of upcoming things that are exciting and both deal with delicious food. Tomorrow night at Rolling Smoke Barbecue, Local Works is holding a Live Local event. So one of our fine restaurants in District 1, please come over and get to learn a little bit about barbecue and of course eat some delicious barbecue. And then next Thursday, the 23rd, the Grange is holding their annual chili cook-off. So please put that on your calendar. Come eat some chili and pick the best one. And also if you feel like entering, they're still accepting entries. So more information on that can be found on their on the Facebook page, the Grange's Facebook page. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Counselor Hulteen.
Thank you. Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Counselor Larson.
And I hope everybody had the opportunity to notice that magnificent moonrise tonight. It was as big as I've seen in a long time, and it just came over kind of a little north of due east, and it was just so impressive. But with the tragic fires going on the West Coast, and most of us that have family that live in California are obviously very concerned. But it raises the issue of if you have to pick up and leave your home quickly, what would you do? And the recommendation is that you put together a go bag, something that is available and everybody knows where it is. Typically, this bag would contain water, non-perishable food, a first aid kit, flashlight with extra batteries, important documents like IDs and insurance papers, a battery-powered radio, personal medications, hygiene items, a blanket, a change of clothes, and a bit of optimism.
Thank you. Counselor Dozeman.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Weaver.
I just want to remind everybody, it started the best 16 days in January. Come on down to the stock show. I'm there every day, except when it starts to get cold, which is going to happen this weekend. So come before that. Saturday, I think it's still going to be nice. So nothing else. Thank you.
All I can say is woo-hoo. Okay. Counselor Ohm. Okay, thank you. Counselor Hoppy.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Just a couple of thank yous. I also wanted to thank the staff for getting out and taking care of this mess that Treasurer DiTullio talked about tonight. They were out there quickly to handle that, so that was a big win for the staff and for Wheat Ridge today, I think. Unfortunately, that happened. I also want to thank my fellow councilors for electing me as Mayor Pro Tem again. I appreciate you all, and please always feel free to reach out and anything I can do to help you all. And I feel like I'm in good company doing something that I know Councilor Hoppy has done 3 times. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody that joined us tonight, and I want to actually say a special thank you to my councilors. This is my last year as mayor, and I think you guys have been the best council in the state of Colorado. So I want to thank you. We were able to talk together and to agree amicably, and I think that's a credit to all of you, and I want to thank you very much. I hope everyone in our sound within our sound and listening area had a great 2024 and looking forward to even a better 2025. So very optimistic about what we do in our city, and we really try to do our best, and we hope that all of our citizens join us in doing that. So we will not be here next week because next week is a Martin Luther King holiday, but we will be here the following week, and we have several public hearings. So I think you'll be doing well if you can tune in on a Monday evening and watch us, or even better still, come down to City Council chambers. We'd love to have you. So please drive safely and slowly through our city, that everybody gets home the way they wanted to be. So we will stand adjourned with that. Thank you.